another episode of Will Work for Patients, a free advice podcast dedicated to help chiropractors get on purpose and grow their practices. Get ready to tune in and turn up the volume of your practice marketing. And now, turning up the volume on his mic, big-time chiropractic advocate and your host, here is Frank Sardella.
Wow! What an introduction. Wow, that is outstanding. Well, thank you, Michelle, and thanks for tuning in, you guys, to Will Work for Patients, our chiropractic marketing podcast. Here we are, and we're back again. I'm Frank Sardella, and I'm so happy to be here with you again today in our podcast show. This show is free for you to not only give you marketing help in your practice, but to keep you on purpose, keep you pumped up, and keep you going. And that's my commitment in a grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world. So welcome. And boy, do we have quite an episode here for you today, quite an episode. But before I get into all of that, I want to thank Michelle Farrell for doing an outstanding job of the introduction. She is now the voice of our podcast, and Michelle is a longtime friend of mine and colleague. She is a very talented individual. She's a radio and TV personality and also a professor of communications at State University of New York, Orange County. Very, very talented. I'm so pleased to have her here. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the wonderful introduction. And you can hear Michelle's voice even in many of our marketing videos. She's a tremendous voiceover artist. And Michelle and I are doing a collaborative effort right now to create some modules and tutorials on non-patient communication. So it's very, very exciting. She'll be coming on board as a coach with us as well. Very excited. Today's episode is called How to Get One New Patient a Day. It's kind of exciting, kind of draws you in, doesn't it? That was the intent. I always try to get a title that will draw you in, and obviously I've succeeded because here you are listening. And I have a lot to talk about with regard to that, and I think you're going to like what you're going to learn today because I'm going to give you something you can sort of go right now and apply and do, and then you can give me some feedback on how well you did with it because I know you're going to get something out of it. I just think I'm going to get more than you even think you're going to get out of it right now. And right now we just have to get you past the one new patient a day. I don't think that's possible. We're going to get you past that. Okay? Now, one of the things you should know about me is that if I'm full of anything, it would be ideas. I mean, I'm just full of them in terms of, business ideas and marketing ideas and all these kind of stuff and how to marry up two different concepts and, places to do screenings. You name it, and I am just full of the ideas. In fact, I put this to the test one time, and I actually sat down at my desk and got a pad of paper and a pen, and I decided to write down all of the marketing ideas I could think of, past, present, and future. And after 5 to 10 minutes, I had to stop. I had writer's cramp. I had written down 200 ideas. I kept the list, and I continued to add to that list over the years, and I do sort of have a file that has these new ideas that constantly go onto the drawing board. Some get developed, some are hoped for or wished for, or some I just wish I had the time to develop. And some of them we want to start offering you here in this podcast. Though I'm going to keep them sort of in the little X file that they're in, and I'm not going to read them over the air, what I may do is start pulling a few off the list. I'm going to start combing these lists for content for our podcast. So I think that'll be a lot of fun, and perhaps we can take you, the listeners, and have you go out there and field test a lot of these ideas. I think you'll find I have a lot of good ones. So, all right, so let's get off here to a very fast start. It's very appropriate that I'm saying that because one of the first steps is going to be talking about getting to a start on a program like this and how you actually start. So again, today's episode is about how to get one new patient a day. I'm not just talking about getting that actual new patient per se, but what it's worth to you and your practice and even your community for you to get someone under chiropractic care right away and in a one-a-day sense minimum. And that's what we want to talk about. I also want to show you an idea I have on how you can use this particular model, one patient a day, to exponentially build your practice. What I'm going to talk to you about is not only how, what it's worth to you in dollars and cents, but how it's a great, great idea on how to rapidly and consistently expand your practice. But also that it'll do something much more important than that, and that is that it'll instantly show up all your weak spots and blocks to getting it done. Now, why is that good news, Frank? And, that it is actually good news, because if you think about it, discovering a weakness or a roadblock or something that you previously didn't know about is something very valuable. when you're trying to transform something, an area of your practice or your life or your business or whatever, okay? Very, very valuable to find those weaknesses so that we can now know exactly what stands in between you and your success. And that's really the premise of most of the things that I coach on, and I want to touch on those today for you here. It'll be my pleasure to go over that with you and help you spot that. So we're going to look at the various ways that we can handle those things. Now, the only promise that I ask you to make in return, and you know that I never ever ask for anything in return, is that you write me with some feedback. Email me, tell me what you found out about yourself, your practice, the barriers you found, anything of the like. Also, successes you had, I want to hear about those, and I want to know how I can help you figure out where to go from there. So that would be really great. Remember, my email address, personally, you can address me, frank.screenings@live.com. So please send those along. I do love getting them, and I do answer them. In fact, it would be my pleasure to give you the nudge that I consider you would look back on in your success and say, there's where it all started. Wouldn't that be wonderful if you and I together could have that moment where you look back and you go, wow, that's where it all started, that little nudge. And that's what I live for. Now, we're getting into this. I told you in the last episode that I'm sort of into like top 10 lists and whatever, and I didn't have any statistics to share with you in terms of what doctors think and whatever. I'm going to save those for some future episodes. But I did a top 5 list today, and I'm doing a top 5 list on the top 5 reasons to try this. Okay, so sort of before I even get into this, I'm going to sell you on doing it, which is putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but I want to tell you what the benefits are of continuing to listen to this podcast and not just shutting it off saying, I can't get one new patient a day. So here's number 5. Make up for in volume what you lack in quality. Okay, now let me tell you about volume versus quality. This is not an insult to you to tell you don't have quality. I'm talking about the quality of one case. What I've noticed is, I can give you a statistic, case averages used to average between $2,200 and $2,500 per patient, just raw billing, collectible, deliverable stuff on one patient, okay, not considering supplements and referrals and all that other stuff. But that used to be the national average in my estimation from the clients and chiropractors that I've talked to in my travels. And I talk to them a lot. I get a lot of inquiries. I've done a lot of evaluations. And one of the things I always ask is, what's your case average? So that used to be up until about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And now it's taken a dive for the worst. And now I've seen anything from as low as, believe it or not, $700 per patient, all the way up to, let's say, on the average, maybe $1,700, something like that. So that is a little bit of a range there. So a lot of you guys have lost out. I've had doctors report to me that since Obamacare, their payments have been cut in half, and I'm not even sure what's going on with all that. We can get into that in some future shows and episodes. But as far as is concerned, the plummet in the amount you're collecting, you have to make up for it in volume. You already know this. So I want to give you another reason to do that, and that's one of the reasons why you should listen to the rest of this podcast and then go out and do this, because you can start right now as soon as you're done listening. Okay? Number 4 would be, maybe you're already at 1 patient per day, meaning 1 new patient getting signed up per day on average, and you're getting 365 per year. Well, that's all well and good. So you would use this to get yourself to the next level. How about 2 new patients a day? My point in how to get 1 new patient a day doesn't mean how to only get 1 new patient a day. It should be subtitled in addition to the new patients you're already getting. So if you're getting 1 new patient a week and you're getting 52 new patients per year, then it should be 365 plus 52 at the end of the year. Does that make sense? So that's number 4. Number 3 is, it's a purpose booster and a half. I should say 2 purpose boosters and a half. Maybe things are okay now even for you, but when the chips are down, and you may be right around the corner from that, you just never know in practice these days, right? But when the chips are down, it's really hard to get that purpose up. And what I'm about to teach you, you will find is, I'm not going to tell you as a first step to check your purpose. I'm already going to assume the purpose is lower than it could be. And as a result of doing the steps that I tell you to do today, your purpose is going to be assumed to skyrocket from there. So that's Reason number 3. Reason number 2 is the worst that could happen is you get more exposure and some word of mouth. And listen, this is not everybody in the listening audience, but it is a good chunk of you who really discount and underestimate the value of some things. I cut out going to such and such a meeting every week because I wasn't getting any new patients off of it. Is not really a true statement. I wasn't getting any new patients off of it. You meant that you didn't directly come home with patients, but the word of mouth actually has a measurable value out in your community. And we're not going to get into that today. But so the worst that could happen if you do this, and if you try it for just like 30 days, let's try to get 1 patient a day for the next month. If you do that, the worst that can happen is you get better exposure, more word of mouth going on in your community, and that's going to amount to something within the 3 months of you starting that. All right? And the number one reason why you should try this is it doesn't cost you a nickel to do. I'm not going to propose anything that's going to cost you a dime. Yes, there are some things you could do as part of this that might cost you. Okay, but for you to just decide to implement this and decide to take this new mindset and decide to get up every morning and say, how can I get 1 new patient a day, is going to cost you absolutely nothing in dollars and cents. It will cost you a little bit in time, but trust me, your time is a far better investment. Trust me. Okay, it's going to be of far greater value. It's much farther reaching. $1 of your time versus an actual dollar are 2 completely different things exponentially. Okay, let's get on with this now because we've wasted enough time on introducing to you this, and you probably want to know how to get 1 new patient a day. And this is a concept of volume. Now, what you need to realize is a starting point. Okay, we want to have an accelerated new patient idea. Okay, you always hear in automobile advertisements 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds, right? But they're never going to invent a car, at least one that's street-worthy, that goes from 0 to 60 in half a second. Okay, that's entirely nearly impossible with the factors we have, friction and air and drag and all this stuff, for you to create a car like that. And even these rocket cars, these drag strip racers and things like that, even they are going to have a little bit of a runway. So we want to actually get you to realize that the way to start getting up to the volume that you envision for yourself is for you to just first put 1 toe on the accelerator and start gradually increasing the pressure from there. And then that will gradually get you to the level where you want to be. So there's acceleration involved. Okay, so this is a starting point, and you need to start somewhere on your high-flown practice growth goals. And I want you to realize that you're always also concentrating on getting the many, and you're forgetting about the one. And that's part of the suggestion. Part of the thing that I'm suggesting here is, it's sort of like the old adage, the journey of 1,000 steps starts with 1 step or something like this. I think there's a few derivatives, but that's really the point. We want to give you a starting point. So we should actually call this boosting your purpose through 1 new patient a day, 4 steps to exponential growth. That would be like, if I were to retitle this thing, that's what I would call it. Okay? And I'm going to give you 4 things here, and we're going to go through them fairly rapid fire, because what I want you to mostly concentrate on is doing this, not necessarily listening to it and asking questions about it. Just take these 4 things and just apply them. So the first thing on the list is that you're going to make a list of all your existing and potential resources where you can get a new patient. Okay? If I asked you to think right now, sit and think where you can get 1 patient right now. Pick up the phone and get a patient, right? So I want you to think about all the resources, all the pools where you could draw one from. Okay, and I want you to think about that. So I want you to look at new patient immediate resources also. I don't want you to start thinking about, I could do a direct mail campaign, or I could beef up my SEO. Yeah, you could do those things, but they're very passive things. You're putting it out there and you're waiting for something to happen. I'm talking about something you can proactively do, something that will make you talk about what you do, something that will get you really completely on purpose, and so on. Okay, and then also keep in mind that the available channels to use include staff and patients and professional referrals too. So think about what patients you could ask for a referral. Think about even your staff members. How often do you neglect to ask them in staff meeting, whether you have one or not,